once you get set up and get under the bar, the unrack is probably the most important part of your squat. Just like the descent was the most important part of the deadlift, getting to the descent in the squat is the most important part of the squat. So I'm gonna set up, I'm gonna put everything together, pull my lats down, get that upper back tight, take my grip, get it right in the right position on my shoulders. Again, remind myself to get that good neutral spine brace. Deep breath in the diaphragm, and just stand up. Now, don't talk while you're squatting. I'm just gonna do that for demonstration purposes. Unrack is a part of the lift where a lot of people get really, really shaky. So I'm not gonna demonstrate, but some people, you'll see them, they're bouncing back and forth in the rack. They need to take 10 million steps to get out here, right? They're walking back, like going for a fucking stroll with the weight on their back or something. And first of all, that's dangerous. Second of all, dangerous, wasted energy. And third of all, it's almost impossible to find a good position if you're moving around that much. You wanna make your unrack as efficient as possible. You wanna be just far enough outside these little pins so that you know you're not gonna hit them on your way down or your way up. But other than that, you wanna move as little as you possibly can under the weight. So the best way to do that, I'll demonstrate without the bar. You wanna start with your feet kind of a little bit closer than you would normally, because when they're a little bit closer, you're gonna have an easier time balancing, and walking with the weight on your back, if it's a heavy weight, really challenging. So just a little bit narrower than whatever your stance would be normally. And then before you start to do anything, you're gonna slide your dominant foot back, right? So I'm a little bit more comfortable, I have a little bit better balance on my right foot. I'm gonna slide my right foot back until it's in the center of my body. I'm not picking this up, right? Not doing that. That's more movement, and I'm more off balance when I have my one foot off the ground. So I'm sliding it back and sliding it to the center. When my foot's in the center like this, again, I have better balance. I can move this foot all the way, all over the place, and it's no problem. If I'm over here, right, if I slide straight back and I try to move here, now I'm a little bit off balance. If I try and come towards the center, now I'm a little bit off balance. So you wanna slide the foot into the middle of your body. Then, this foot can pretty much do anything, and you're probably gonna have to pick it up because it's hard to slide another foot when you're already kind of in a staggered stance. So you pick it up and you're gonna find exactly where this foot would be when you're in your right stance. So this one, right in the center of my body, this is wherever I want my stance. So I want my stance like this, slide back, step back, and then I can just step with this foot. That kind of three-part motion is gonna allow you to unrack even very heavy weight without losing any tightness, without losing any balance. Some people do prefer to just do a two-step walk back, and they can move their foot straight back and then just take another step back. If you can do that, that's fine. Personally, I don't have the best balance, and so I have to slide my dominant foot first. But if you're comfortable with two steps, that's fine. More than three steps, not okay. You're wasting energy. Obviously, it's not possible with one. So 2 or 3 steps. I prefer 3. If 2 works for you, that's fine. Everything together again. So now I'm ready to squat. Head position is actually not as big a deal as I think people make it out to be. You want to have a neutral spine. We talked about that before. Some people like looking up. They find helps them balance a little bit better, helps them keep a flat back. I prefer looking slightly down. Some people look straight ahead. You don't want to be looking straight down. You don't want to be looking straight up, but basically anywhere in between is probably okay. When you initiate your descent, you want to keep your elbows under the bar for the entire lift. When your elbows go far back, that pushes you forward. If your elbows go too far forward, it's kind of hard to get your elbows too far forward. So you want your elbows to be directly under the bar the entire lift. Your torso, more or less, is gonna follow your elbows. If your elbows are pointing down, your torso is gonna be pointing up. That's what you want, okay? So try and keep that position as you descend. When you descend, it's gonna depend on your leverages, whether you like to push your knees forward or sit back. So personally, I push my knees forward because I like to engage more quad than posterior chain. So when I descend, I'm keeping my weight over my midfoot, but I'm pushing my knees forward until I can hit depth. And then I'm gonna come up. We'll talk about the ascent a little bit later. Now some people, usually people who prefer a wider stance, prefer to push their butt back. Because of my torso, if I push my butt back, it's pretty ugly, but I'll show you what that looks like. You can see it makes me lean forward way, way more. Makes sense if you think about it, because I'm starting off more or less by tilting my torso forward, right? If I'm pushing my butt back. That's why I personally don't do it. If you have a longer torso, it might work better for you. It might help you to engage your posterior chain a little bit more. Both styles are perfectly fine. The important thing is that you're keeping balanced and that you're engaging all your muscles effectively. Effectively, it's going to be different for every person. We've talked about this a lot by now, but there's no one right answer. So just keep that in mind. If somebody tells you, hey, this is the way you have to squat, it should probably be a red flag because there's no one right way for everyone. So the last big thing is the descent and keeping your muscles tight during the descent. That's going to be almost identical for the deadlift. Again, for most people, the cue that works best is trying to spread the floor, pull the bar floor apart with your feet. If that cue doesn't work for you, you might have to play around with some different ones. You might have to think about pushing your heels back again against the ground. Obviously, in none of these cases are my feet going to move. I do not want my feet to move. I'm just trying to keep my quads, my hamstrings, and my glutes all engaged effectively. If you struggle with that on a squat, the hip circle is a great tool, or just a band around your knees, great tool to help you do that. It's going to force you to push your knees out, or else the band's going to fall down around your ankles, you'll look silly. So it's going to force you to keep your knees out, and generally, keeping your knees out is going to force you to engage your posterior chain. The quads in the squat are pretty much always going to work. It's almost impossible to squat without working your quads at all, so you don't have to think about those quite as much. As long as you do those things, you hit depth effectively. So depth is when the crease of your hip is below your knee. Some people can't safely squat to that depth, and if that's you, that's fine, right? Like, do what you can. Most people can squat at least that deep. And so as soon as you hit depth, you can kind of reverse that momentum. Some people like to bounce their squats. Some people get a lot more energy when they're going down really fast, right? And you're still able to stay tight like that, that's great. Most people, when they descend quickly, and I'll show you what that looks like too. When most people descend quickly, they lose tightness, you lose balance, you're not as strong as you would be. But some people have the ability to stay really tight and go down really quickly, and they can get some rebound out of the bottom. Almost like that. I'm not good at that at all. But hey, if you can do that and it works for you, that's fine. You probably saw in the last rep, I use a lot more of a controlled descent. And so for me, that allows me to stay tight, to reverse momentum without losing any of that tightness. That's the only cue that matters, only part that matters of how fast your descent is. Staying tight, staying balanced. That's really all that matters throughout the entire lift.